People's Democratic Party from 1999, the region has seen a decline in PDP's dominance, with several prominent people, do I say changing guards? Well, that is the story of a PDP from Imo to Anambra, Abia, Ebonyi. I know you were waiting for me to say it, so I'll say it to Enugu. The story has changed. You can't find one PDP state in the Southeast. So, what are the shifting dynamics of politics in the Southeast? The conversation will be held with somebody you've heard his voice before, talking about several issues. We've talked about elections. We've talked about what I enjoy most, stakeholders and structure owners. Hello, good afternoon, Dennis.
Good afternoon, Barry Commando.
Now, Dennis, as usual, I give you the honors to introduce yourself.
My name is Dr. Dennis Ekemezie, past National Vice President and Vice Chairman of Governing Council of Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, NIPR.
Oh, that's all for now. You are no longer the chief research person.
Whichever one you want. Hello?
I'm listening to you. So I just asked.
The network is not friendly here, I don't know. It's about to rain.
Oh, sorry. We hope it won't rain until we are through with the conversation.
No problem.
So what I expect us to do is we'll try our best before the weather really gets unfriendly. When we were starting the program, I did say that right now in Enugu is sunny and we're expecting rain. I didn't know that prediction will catch up with you and possibly affect our program. Anyway, let's go straight to it. Now, when 1999 came, it was a celebration of sorts, the return of democracy after so many years of military rule. But one significant thing was, as at that point in time, there was a clean sweep of one political party, the People's Democratic Party. From 1999 till date, we've seen so much change. My question would be, is it that the ideals of a political party has changed? Or is it that the people who make up the political party, that's People's Democratic Party, for instance, are changing their convictions, their beliefs? What is really happening?
Well, I think the summary of it is we are witnessing the dynamics of political culture in Nigerian politics. The emerging new values, new ethos, and then culminating in new developments. Of course, if you analyze the attitude or political behavior of our political elites, you will see that it just met what the legend Zeke said, that birds of the same feather flock together. As you rightly said, when they emerged from snatching or from recovering democracy from the khaki, the military people, they were fairly united. But we know that most of them that were bold enough to engage in political activities that time were those that were what we call, they were a bit fearless. They were those that were able to take the risk. Would I call them entrepreneurs, political entrepreneurs? Of course, which we will now go back to what we discussed earlier of issue of mercantile politics.
Politics, yes.
And you know that most of them that entered into politics were there, entered just for primitive capital accumulation of what they will gain or what they will invest and then what they will recoup. And then you find out that consequently, most of them, their political behavior were not based on ideology. In fact, there is no clear-cut ideology between all the parties that were formed within 1998 to date. If you study their party constitution and manifestos, you will see that they're almost the same thing. So without that guide, political philosophy, political ideology, that will now direct them where they are going, to be able to meet the demands of the time in terms of democratic, building sustainable democratic structure or culture. You now discover that their major interest in investing and then recouping from what they have invested was what was piloting them, what was guiding them. And hence, they move like butterfly, showing many colors, just like rainbow. I think that's the situation where we are now. So without ideology, most of them are just flying about.
All right. It's not because I want to lift the word ideology from the dictionary, but look, let's just imagine a scenario where a political party, not just one, not two, not three, not four, seems to appear as if the only ideology some politicians know is the election circle and nothing else. Why do we have that situation?
Well, the situation emerged as a result of consequential demand for acquisition of power, propelled by the existing realities in society, that there is no better investment where you get better investment in terms of entrepreneurship than going into politics. You go into politics to be able to make it and then to be able to exercise, acquire political power, to acquire, what do you call it, power, influence and authority. And I think that's the underlying factor. And without looking at what will be the benefit of the society, what will be the benefit of the people, what will be the benefit of stakeholders and no longer structure holders. Because when they emerge from structure holders, they now dovetail into, when they emerge from stakeholders, they now dovetail into structure holders. And then at times you will not be able to distinguish them. The only distinction you will be able to make that most of them have gone into upper political class. And then in terms of members of executive, members of the legislature, and then well, the judiciary is always on its own. However, there are elements of control in terms of allocation of resources. So I think that is the scenario where we now try to look, what is the problem? How do we get to that place? And then what will be the solution? And part of it is that until it's part of the political development, we say part of the circle, or part of the line of the build-ups that they're now imagining. And it looks like that most of our political elites are more interested in what they will acquire and then what they will invest in order to acquire power, in order to acquire influence and affluence in the society. Not in terms of what would we contribute to society for the benefit of the people and for the benefit of the stakeholders, instead of for the mass benefit of the structure owners or holders. I think that's the scenario where we find ourselves. What do we do? How do we disentangle ourselves from such situation? Because the next question or the next point to be looked at.
Before you rush into that point to be looked at, let me ask you, Dennis, are we not part of a problem? There's this saying that a community gets the leader it deserves. You can extrapolate that from one place to another. Now, you did say that the politician is just out there to get what they want, to make it happen for them. What about those who say they follow them, and those who say wherever Mr. A or Chief A goes to, that's where they will go to? So is there any difference from the people we see some of the people we see at the top and some of the followers? Is there really any difference?
Well, one of the major differences you will discover is that in terms of upward mobility of power acquisition, to be able to acquire influence and affluence, and then through the appropriation of the state resources, the surplus resources in the economy that would have been used for the benefit of the people. And then you find out also that in most cases there were no breeding ground for the younger generations to take over, which is gradually being crippled by the powers of the executive commanding. For instance, you know that to train younger ones starts better at the local government level. And then we find out that in most cases that local government administration or local government tier of government is not giving better opportunity to be able to nurture the younger ones to take up from that angle of grassroots democracy or grassroots development that will enable them to acquire a better political culture to rise up. I think that is also another scenario that maybe would be better analyzed in the future, so that we know, the researchers will now come in and know what would we do to be able to bring up the younger ones through a better, well-informed political structure or political culture that will now propel better development than building personalities and heroes, other than building the state that will now take the place of the people, of the citizenry. I think that is where the problem is.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because over the years you will discover some young people that if we don't follow the building of personalities rather than structures or institutions.
The network is challenging us.
Oh, sorry about that. But can you hear me?
Faintly.
Oh dear. Very sorry about that. But I hope we can pull through. Now, what I was saying, drawing from what you said, was that if we take away from strong personalities in the society and rather focused on building institutions, we wouldn't have been in this situation. It is so easy for us to go back down history lane and tell you the age of Michael Okpara, the age of Zeke of Africa, the age of so many personalities. Now, the big question is, rather than those personalities, by the time you get to the modern day, give way, train the younger ones to form the culture of doing the right thing, following the right processes, you discover that those who have built up themselves as personalities don't want to give way. So, what new method can we bring into the system that can begin to show the differences that can lead to a better society?
Yeah, we look at it within the process of acculturalization. Also within the context of inclusiveness and building up an environment that will build trust and then mentorship that will be able to accommodate the younger generation to take over from the aging generation. But there's a gap, there's a disconnect. The disconnect is part of the process of hero worshipping because of the existing harsh economic situation in the system. And then the younger generation normally sing praises, tone the line of psychophancy to be able to align with the political elites so that they will be accommodated in terms of aids, political assistance, political aids, and political, I call them political messengers. They're messengers. So at times you find out that we are not being given proper opportunity, proper role play that will help them to build them up for qualitative leadership in the future. So they remain at the table, at the area of what they normally call stomach infrastructure to be able to survive. And that is a problem. The problem of poverty of interest, and then poverty of intellectual development in terms of building themselves into better political personality that will take over from the older generation. And then that gap created becomes a serious problem in the system that how do we nurture them? How do we mentor them? And then how do we give them opportunity to grow? And that's where we must now go back to build the local government system, the grassroots system that will now nurture them up to the upper level that now they join the will of the political elites, the will of what do we call that structure owners. They become they are dependent on structure owners, so that they will find what they eat, what they will use for their own goods, and that is where the term or the tag of stomach infrastructure now controls the political system better than other than the influence or the affluence or the acquisition of enduring political culture that will motivate the emerging standard, or what do I call it? If I use civilized democracy, I think it will not be go well for developing or developed economy that will now enhance the better governance in the system. I think there's a disconnect between the political elites and the emerging younger generations that will take over from them, rather than what we are now witnessing is the issue of hero worshipping, personality worshipping, which affects the development of the democratic culture that will now sustain the system.
Dennis, I'm going to disagree with you a bit, just a bit. From what you said, is it not intentional that people would rather leave the issues and focus on personality? Hero worship is okay, but doesn't it look as if it's intentional that some politicians are leading people away from the issues? And that's what led us to agreeing that there is a process called stomach infrastructure that takes care of the here and now and make everyone blinded to what should be the proper structure that will benefit the entire community. Is that not intentional? For example, For example, I look up to Dr. Dennis Ekemezie as my political leader. And over time, I have not seen him make anything that is, do anything that is impactful in our community. But when it comes to the election cycle, because of the mercantile gains I will get, I'll still follow him. I'll still carry out his instructions. So that's why I'm asking, is it not intentional?
Well, it's a culture that has developed over time. And, that's where what we are crying, that the system wouldn't allow or giving opportunity for the younger generations or generation within the context of what we are discussing to emerge, to take over. Rather, the political elites perpetuate themselves in power using the state instrument of power to undermine the good governance that would have helped the younger generation to learn from it and then to cue in from the system and then be able to grow. I think that's the point we have made, that inclusiveness, non-accommodation of the younger ones, giving them proper opportunity, giving them proper orientation through mentorship, for them to enable them to rise and take over, is what is affecting the system. And then also the nature of what do I call it in politics? Primitive capital accumulation, the accumulation of resources that will now help the younger generations to be part of the political process is another major problem that hinders the development and the emergence of younger generation to acquire power and then assume office and then be able to prepare for their future. So rather, the older generation keep on dominating and then controlling the state resources against the benefit of the younger generation that would have acquired better resources, more resources, and then more political culture that we helped to develop the nation or the state. The point I'm making is that there are disconnects between mentorship and then stewardship. And then there's also disconnect between what I will call the apart from transactional leadership, what I will now call transformational leadership. Because if we go back to our earlier theory of mercantile politics, those who acquire the power, who acquire the resources through appropriation of state resources, now have enormous to be invested in for their future development, for their future engagement in the political affairs of the state, and then to the detriment of the younger generation coming up that would have moved into the new structure as a part of the stakeholders. You see them at the middle level, as apprentice level, as what do you call it, as appendages. Yeah. Attachments. Yes. So they were not allowed, given the opportunity to grow, to mature, to take over from the older political elites. I think that's where the problem is.
Oh dear, time is out. But I need to just put this on the table. You don't need to answer, Dennis, because time is out. I would have thought that when the Not Too Young to Run Act was signed into law, that would have assisted the young people to begin to see themselves not as appendages, but as people with a right to show the way of doing the right thing. But Dennis, unfortunately, we're out of time, so I need to say thank you very much. But we need to still continue this conversation, because the shifting political dynamics in the Southeast creates that opportunity, that platform for the younger people to say, we have a say in what happens in the Southeast.
Exactly. I agree with you.
Dr. Dennis Ekemezie, thank you for coming on to Southeast News. I would arrange for us to have this other conversation on why the young people cannot take over another time. But for now, thank you very much. And I'm also glad that the weather managed to hold still so that we can finish this conversation.
The struggle continues. We are in spirit praying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barikumo Ado is my name. We'll be here again tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.